There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19.
Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this podcast.
This is a That's Entertainment podcast.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No,
You're awesome.
No,
You are awesome.
sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is a show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. Normally, but not on today's episode. Today's episode is a bit of a hey, we're back episode. It's a bit of a reboot, if you will. We are coming back at you, which we've tried to do a few times in the last few months here. And I had some pretty lofty goals in trying to do that by posting episodes like on anywhere from 3 times a week to 5 days a week. And that just was way too much work. And I was reminded recently that like the reason I started doing this Everything is Awesome specifically podcast was because I just enjoyed sitting down and talking to new and interesting people. It wasn't about numbers. It wasn't about this and that. And with that being said, I'm actually, we may see the end of episode numbers coming very soon, but not quite yet. I still am holding on to that, but I'm not going to be so locked into, we took a year off and we should be on episode XYZ right now, and so we're going to post all these episodes. No, that's not what we're going to do. I'm going to be focused on getting new content and the old content out there for now. So what that means with what I guess I'm deeming as a bit of a reboot after this break is Everything is Awesome, as the artwork now shows, is Everything is Awesome with Kevin Gallagher, to kind of give a little bit of a difference to this podcast and the other Everything is Awesome podcast that's out there. Also, yeah, I like to make changes like that. And so what we're going to be doing is, starting with this episode, we're going to be posting, even though this is technically a new episode, we're going to be posting on Fridays our back catalog until we're caught up, which will be a few weeks, probably at least 8 to 10 episodes, I think, are back catalog episodes. And then we're going to, on Wednesdays, our normal release day, we're going to release new episodes. And this all came about because a guy who I was very, very interested in interviewing, who I've been wanting to interview for years now, posted on Twitter about like, hey, I have time to do podcasts. Let's, if you want me on your podcast, let's do it. And we sat down and we recorded that podcast last night. So, and I really wanted to be a lot more productive with Everything is Awesome and getting things caught up with both Everything is Awesome and the That's Entertainment Podcast Network in general. We should be on a new server by now, and we're not. And I thought that this quarantine would really give me that time to get all this stuff done. And unfortunately, I have not been very productive when it comes to these things, podcasting and writing and stuff like that. I'm trying to change that. I am writing, not so much for That's Entertainment, but I am writing for Bam Smack Pow, for Food Sided, and I have taken on the responsibilities of site expert for MTG Sideboard, Magic the Gathering. So I'm in the process of kind of redeveloping that site for Fansided. It's been fun trying to get that stuff going, and I'd like to still increase the output that I'm doing in those ventures over there, but and in the meantime, I'm also going to be rededicating myself to That's Entertainment and specifically the podcasting side of things. So to start things off, we're going to get a steady schedule of that. We're going to get a steady schedule of Everything is Awesome with Kevin Gallagher going. That's the first piece I need to put in place for That's Entertainment and very specifically the That's Entertainment Podcast Network in order to move forward. And that, thanks to my interview with the guest that you'll hear on Wednesday, I'm ready. Like not only because we sat down and recorded a new episode, but because like our conversation led to like, you know what? Like, why do I care? Why am I so hung up on these things that really ultimately crush my soul? And obviously there were other reasons why I took so much time off, and whatnot. But, this episode here, as I said, it's going to be a short episode. I'm not going to post an old episode to the end of this or anything. It's very simply here to remind you that the Everything is Awesome feed is here. We're going to do it. We got an exciting lineup of shows coming at you. My phone that has that list is charging right now. But I believe our lineup from this episode on today is Reboot. Next week we're going to have Jason Tabris on the show. Tabris. I screwed it up after even getting it correct before. But Jason is a writer and podcaster that from various places on the internet. And I've wanted to have him on the show for a few years now, and I finally made it happen. And I couldn't be more excited to kind of kick things off with new episodes with Jason. And then going forward, there's an episode that I recorded with Ben Wallace from the Pot of Love podcast, where we sit around, we talk about the Star Wars movies. We have episodes of when I talked about Fast and the Furious with Garrett. There's a Captain Marvel recap. There's some live shows that are coming down the line, and I'm actually going to try to book our next 3 to 4 weeks worth of interviews as it stands now, and I'm really excited. So I don't know who some of our newer guests are going to be that are going to be our Wednesday shows, but our Friday shows are going to be really exciting, really some good stuff. Some of it is just me sitting around with friends talking about movies, me sitting around talking with myself about movies, and some live shows that we've done at both got a few places. I believe there's live shows for the Great Philadelphia Comic Con. There's 2 or 3 of those. There's also Wizard World. There's 2 of those, I believe, maybe even 3 of those. There's also the 2019 Philadelphia Podcast Festival show to post. So we have a bunch of things to post there. I believe I also have some festival recap stuff from the I guess it's technically the 2019 Winter Festival that I ran. I did not run it this year, which actually turned out to be probably a smart move, even though we weren't really hit with the COVID at that point. It was still in the States, and it could have gotten more people sick than needed. So I'm actually kind of glad that I slept on that this year. But we are going to come back big and bad, I think, in 2021. Hopefully things have calmed down and we are able to do live shows again. Live shows are obviously on my radar for a comeback. I just don't know when because of the quarantine we're in. But and obviously that means that the Philadelphia Podcast Festival for 2020 is also up in the air. I have not heard from the people that run it what their plan is. The festival's usually in July. It's been in June, it's been in August, but it tends to be in the July timeframe. Which is like, who knows what that's going to be, what kind of gatherings we're going to have. But I'm looking to still do something in July to celebrate the podcast festival. Even if, it's not on, or B, I decide not to do it. And honestly, I don't know that I'm comfortable with doing the podcast festival this year. It all depends on a lot of different factors. But regardless, live shows on our radar again. We're just waiting for it to happen. We might even move into a live stream of sorts coming up soon. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you all for being patient, waiting for these episodes to come out. And that, whether that's you, the listener, my super friends, or whether it's the guests that we've had on the show that I've sat down and recorded with back in 2018. Because 2019 I took off because of personal reasons and mental reasons. And even in 2020, these 4 months that have gone by, there's just been a lot mentally keeping me down. Some of it is very personal reasons, with family being sick and whatnot. And other parts of it were just like looking at the workload I had and kind of like, oh my God, is it worth it? And yes, it is worth it because it's what I like to do. So Everything is Awesome is not dead. Everything is Awesome with Kevin Gallagher is coming back. It's coming back in a big way, but not a way that is going to burden me. And I'm going to be more carefree with it. That's the goal right there. Now, that being said, we need to do some housekeeping. And typically we have pre-recorded things for our housekeeping. I don't know if I'm going to keep that pre-recorded or if we're going to do that stuff live. Probably not with the guests, but live as part of my outro. So first and foremost, thank you so much for listening to this show. Please follow us on Twitter at RealAwesomePod, or you can follow me directly on Twitter. That's where I do most of my social media stuff, at ThatNerdyKev. Please consider following us there. But here at Everything is Awesome, we like to end the show with a call to action. And super friends, there are a lot of terrible things that happen in this world, many different issues that you could be calling about. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in an election year. There's a lot of things going on. And I think the number one thing that you can do now that we're in an election year is make sure you are registered to vote. You can go to vote.org and take a look at your registration status. Even if you're registered, do it. Check it out. It's very important that you do that because there are states that purge voter registrations. So please make sure you're registered to vote. This is an important election year. This is where we can maybe change the tide in things and make a difference with our voice, with our vote. So please do that. Obviously, if there are issues that concern you, call your representatives. That is the best thing that you can do. If you're like me, you get nervous making those phone calls. Maybe you don't know what to say. You can use a service that I use when I call my reps with a site called 5calls.org. That's the number 5calls.org. There, you'll find issue summaries for issues that are important to you, contact information for your representatives, and a script to read while you're on the phone to make sure your message gets across. Calling is quick, it's easy, and is one of the most effective ways to have your voice heard. So please, there are two things. I'm not going to call to action a specific issue. Your call to action is go to vote.org. If you want to make a difference and make some phone calls about what's going on with this pandemic, with COVID-19, please call your representatives. Make sure you have enough testing. Make sure you have everything that you need. Make sure, if people aren't working, get that rent-free stuff going for the next couple of months so that, people can survive and have a roof over their head. Thank you to everyone who supports us on patreon.com/thatnerdykev or ko-fi.com/thatnerdykev. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to bring this awesome episode to you. If you want to support us in a non-monetary way, word-of-mouth recommendations and a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts are the best ways to spread the good word of awesome. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Real Awesome Pod or on Instagram at Awesome Podcast. We're available on awesomepodcast.com. We're available on awesomepodcast.com or, of course, thatentertains.com/network. Get news about Everything is Awesome from our website, social media accounts, or my personal Twitter at thatnerdykev. And if you're interested in ad rates, live appearances, help with your podcast, or have a question or comment, email us at awesome@crudeHumorstudios.com. And I mentioned my Patreon and my Ko-Fi. They are great ways to support us monetarily. I get that we're in the middle of a pandemic, that we are probably in the highest unemployment rate of our lifetimes. And I implore you to support if you can. I'm not going to turn away your money, but there are other people out there that need that money right now. There are other content creators that are out of work and they need your money. Find your favorite content creators, your favorite independent creators. Find how best to support them and support them. Support your local businesses. Things like comic book stores and record stores and gaming stores. They are getting hit the hardest right now. If you can, buy gift certificates to your favorite places. Pre-order stuff and pick up curbside if they're offering it. However you can support your local businesses. If you want to see your comic book stores survive this pandemic, if you want to see your favorite stores, diners, restaurants, your local businesses, if you want to see them survive what's happening right now, shop local, shop as often as you can. It's the only way they'll be around when this is all over. Big business, they'll be around. Burger King will be around. Outback will be around. They're not going anywhere. But that mom and pop Mexican restaurant, that mom and pop diner around the corner, whatever is your favorite places, your favorite comic book stores, these places may not be around without our help. So please, 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 if you're able to support, I'm not going to say no to supporting me at patreon.com/nerdykit. I'm not going to say no to supporting me, but I think you should support other people first because I'm okay. My family is okay. We're able to survive. I have friends who have lost jobs while this is going on. I have people that I look up to in the podcasting world and the content creation world that are not so lucky. So please find your favorite content creators, your local businesses, and support them. And then when this is all over and we're back to whatever is normal after this and everyone's working again, then please throw me a couple bucks if you enjoy what we do. But for now, I don't need it. Send it to the people that need it. That being said, any profits that we make off of Everything is Awesome or That's Entertainment through our Patreon, our Ko-Fi, our store that I don't think I have published anywhere, but our store, any money that gets brought in from this show, from any of the games that I write on itch.io, any of that money that I bring in from these secondary sources of mine that are related to my writing, my podcasting, all that money is going to be donated to causes that need it, whether they be local businesses, whether they be content creators, whatever. That's where that stuff will go after all the fees that are taken out, of course. So know that if you do support me, anything that I get to keep after fees or other supporters that are other content creators that I'm already backing, that money will go to people that need it during this COVID-19 crisis. I would have it no other way because again, I can manage what I'm managing now. That was a very long tangent about money. Not how we usually do house cleaning here, but please again, support those people. Everything is Awesome is a production of That's Entertainment Podcast Network in association with Crude Humor Studios. Crude Humor Studios is a Philadelphia-based production company specializing in audio, video, and live performances. You can find more info at crudehumorstudios.com. Thanks for listening, super friends. We've been awesome! This episode of Everything is Awesome is brought to you by Tellus. Tellus is a fantasy world created by Michael D'Angelo. Spanning 15 novels and novellas, Tellus is a place of magic and splendor, where great heroes fight for the people. Some of these heroes are blessed with the strain, granting them uncanny abilities. The Tellus universe is medieval superhero fantasy with steampunk elements that mix with several different mythologies. With so much to choose from, the world is in your hands. Get more information, purchase the books, and discover the world of Tellus at Tellus.com.
That's Entertainment Podcast Network. Entertainment and culture. Artist-owned, fan-supported.